Hey everyone, welcome back to the Coffee Chats podcast. Today we have Jermaine Carter joining us. How's your day going today, Jermaine?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. So just to start, I'm going to give a little time for you to introduce yourself and basically just let us know what you do.
My name is Jermaine Carter. I started a wealth management firm, private wealth management firm, about 5 years ago after being in the industry for about a total of 16 years. Our focus is really going to be on comprehensive financial planning. By comprehensive, we mean comprehensive, which involves a lot of collaboration with other experts, tax attorneys, CPAs, trust attorneys. And the idea is to create a process around full wealth management that gets our clients to kind of their end game, which is usually going to be like a work optional lifestyle. So that's kind of what we focus on here. Yeah.
That's great to hear. Yeah, no, the work optional lifestyle is definitely appealing to, I'd hope, most people. So just to start off with the first section, we're going to get into your early college and kind of post-college career life. So where did you go to college and what did you end up majoring in?
Cal State Northridge. I went to Cal State Northridge. Of course, I wanted to play football. I think luckily for me, was planning on going to other schools, tore my ACL, went down there wanted to play there, tore my ACL again. And then I started fighting, actually. Did mixed martial arts while I was doing those things. But luckily for me, I tore my ACL, had to really start focusing in on, what's happening in professional life. I started computer science. I finished with biology. I worked at a hospital full time at Kaiser while I was in school, and I absolutely loved working in the hospital. So I changed my major to biology with the plan to kind of go to med school, right? But then, I was kind of majoring in fun as well. So once I graduated, I no longer wanted to do the MCAT. I had some mentors, some of the physicians I worked with at the hospital, giving me great information for a long time, actually. And one of them really talked to me about his brother was in finance. He was a banker. I talked to his brother and then kind of just launched from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So obviously, graduating with a biology degree isn't really the finance route. And I'm really interested in hearing more about this person you met who kind of introduced you to finance, and then how that kind of influenced you to then later dive into the finance field.
Well, look, I was always talking to everybody, ultra social, uh, uh, like building relationships, which our business is all about building and maintaining relationships and, managing expectations and then meeting those expectations, right? Realistic expectations. So I was pretty good at that throughout the time I was in school, really trying to figure out exactly what to do and met him. Of course, one of the things we talked about was his lifestyle, what he actually did, his financial opportunity, which I was really interested in at first. And then the longer I kept doing this, it became less about the financial opportunity and more about the kind of work that we actually do with families, right? And making sure we're being, intellectually honest. But my initial draw was, look, I get to talk to people, eat dinner, have lunch. I get to work with people I like. I don't have to work with people I don't like, which kind of happens all the time, right? I don't have to try to be all things to everybody. Again, that was something I was very interested in from a personality standpoint, which he explained to me. His job was a little bit different because he was he was representing the organization he was working for as an employee. I kind of went on the entrepreneurial side and wealth management to start. I had friends' dads who were at I had a couple friends' dads that were at the bigger organizations, and they, of course, tried to pull me in to their organization. But what I was interested in was full wealth management, like complete, comprehensive full wealth management, which was going to be the integration of business assets, mortgages, those kind of things. So I didn't want to work at a bank just pushing a button and spitting out millions. All right, so yeah, that individual really helped me out. One funny story was it was a cardiologist, and it was his brother-in-law. And one of the things he said was like, "Hey, you're a lot smarter than that guy." The people like you more, so you should do about as good as he's doing. So that was kind of the expectation when I started.
That's great. Were there any kind of other people? So I know you mentioned that person, but were there any other people that kind of got you kind of hooked into financial services, and then obviously got you into actually starting your own firm in the end?
Yeah, so I mean, when I decided not to go, when I decided like, look, I'm not going to med school. I started. Everyone was pushing me into anything that was relationship building. I really liked it. I was very social, so I started interviewing. I remember I was interviewing at a career fair, like a private career fair. I got interested. I was invited to, and that's a true story. It was one financial firm and a bunch of life science companies. I don't know how that happened. Um, I was running my mouth talking to other candidates. I wasn't very nervous. And then the recruiter from like financial firm came over to talk to me and was like, really, like, you should just come with me now. Uh, you know, it's really impossible for us to find, people like you who are just going to be in your social doing this. But if you can do kind of what you're doing in this setting, you're going to be very, successful. So she was just a random recruiter for an organization. Um, Actually invited me down the next day. I met with the president of the company, uh, talked to him about his experience, and then went from there. I was kind of hooked. I started. I think I started a week later.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, one of the things about wealth management in general, one of the things I don't like about the business is it's really so hard to build relationships.
Mhm.
And the position itself, especially on the entrepreneurial side, if you don't work at an organization where you're getting like a salary, something like, like that, um, it's very difficult. So because of how difficult it is, you get a lot of opportunity that's given to a lot of different people. But so if you can kind of present yourself in a fashion where you're serious, you can get an opportunity at a lot of different firms, and you capitalize on that opportunity and do what you actually want to do and surround yourself with the right people. That's going to be really the tough part. Getting in the door because of the difficulty, and I think the industry itself is probably still at only like a 10% retention rate. I don't know. Haven't really paid attention to those things any longer, but there's a low retention rate for wealth managers and a low success rate, right? I mean, I have 3 or 4 clients that were doing what I was doing, right? And they stopped doing it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. That's awesome. That's amazing to hear that actually people who used to do wealth management actually ended up going to a wealth manager.
Well, you would think it'd be more common, but no, everyone knows everything these days.
That's true.
Everyone,
Yeah, yeah,
everyone,
yeah, of course. So I kind of want to move to, let's say, post college, and I'm guessing you didn't start your firm right out of college, correct?
absolutely not. And I kind of have met some guys that have done that.
Oh, really?
That's a really tough path, right? I knew from the beginning when I started this personality type, I wanted to start my own firm, right?
Mhm.
Um, but you don't know what you don't know. So what I did was I sought out people that were way smarter than me in much bigger firms, and I kind of attached myself to them, right? So my direct mentor in the business, he's just a competitor now, so I won't even say his name. Uh, but he had a ton of AUM. He changed the trajectory of my career, taught me a bunch of things. And I mean, at this particular firm, I won like Rookie of the Year, where you win based on the product lines that you're bringing in and all the kind of stuff, the planning fees. It's just traditional finance things, right?
Mhm.
Um, and one of the things I said to him is I wasn't happy with the level of work that I was doing, even though uh, I was kind of starting to, make my way in the career. And he gave me a lot of feedback. Told me there's some things about this you don't understand. He had worked on Wall Street before, and I worked with him for 6 years. And I mean, he had been in for 20 years, so some of his clients were extremely high net worth. From you know, some clients had $20 million invested with them.
Oh, wow.
Some had 5. Uh, and just hanging in with him, language, presentation, uh, even speech cadence, where to get certain information, what you truly unique about the organization. Things built in around expected returns, uh, economic factors. He's still one of the best uh, advisors I've ever met. I've met a lot. I meet a lot now because now we go to these independent events and there's guys around who can ask some questions. Especially on the independent side we're on, we're competing a lot with the large organizations. So you can ask anyone on our side questions and they typically help out. He is still probably, I think, the most informed, the most diligent, the most disciplined about kind of his approach and what he's going to do that I've met since I've been in the business. So I knew him closely for 6 years. After that, uh, really kind of went out on my own, which was kind of my initial plan. 16 years. So you have to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. So
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of someone getting their, because you can get I think there's a few schools now that you get CFP as a part of your bachelor's and all those kind of things.
Yeah, I've heard of programs. Yeah.
Yeah, you get out and you're doing, the last couple of years, I've hired 2 CFPs and I have to reteach them kind of everything.
Oh,
right?
wow. Uh-huh.
So, yeah, even when I was with him, we were looking at, I was looking at doing the CFP, and then we decided instead on the Master of Science in Financial Services, Business Succession Planning, uh, business success planner certificate, succession planning certificate, and then an accredited estate planning certificate. All of that education was more appropriate for what I was doing than kind of, I would call it a basic certified financial planner. I mean, that it doesn't seem like it in our business because they're the best at marketing.
Yeah.
But the things I learned when I was doing my master's in financial services, some of the industry professionals, Dr. Wade Fowle, some of the things around retirement planning, and all those things were just invaluable. So you have to find the people who are successful. And then what I was specifically trying to get to was getting away from this business being a journey and turning it into a process. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when you kind of talk about that process, I know you mentioned that you worked at a bunch of different firms to gain that valuable experience before starting your firm. What was kind of the most important role at a certain firm that kind of pushed you to the point where you were like, okay, now I'm ready for my own firm?
Well, my mentor, I mean, he was a tough dude. So he would give us a script. We had to role play. And then when I first started, I would role play with him. And I had my position. I was supposed to play inside of the review meetings with clients, even though I was still entrepreneurial. And he would say, "Hey, you sound stupid. Like, you think I'm gonna let you? You think I'm gonna let you in a meeting with somebody with $10 million, one of our clients? This is just not gonna happen." So he was able to really push me and get, serious. A lot of our business is performing, right? But most advisors don't spend a lot of time practicing before. What he was able to teach me was how to practice, where to get information, where to develop your skills, and all of those things. And then the progress became exponential. This was only after a year of working, I was starting to, easily meet with clients with $1 million or more assets at that point, right? And a lot of that experience just came directly from the work I did with them.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely amazing. And I mean, what I've seen from wealth management is that it's definitely knowing the different financial products and how to build a financial plan. But I've seen that talking and kind of getting those skills to communicate to the clients is a huge, huge part of the business. And without that, it doesn't work.
Yeah, so the language you use, especially in front of clients, really matters. The focus, the language you use can kind of lets everyone know what your focus is, right? And if it's outward focus, it's going to be obvious. If it's inward focusing, meaning you're focused on kind of where you're trying to get, not where these clients need to go. It can be a big factor in the success you're going to have inside the career. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the business is it's really an amazing business because I feel like it's more closer to sales than traditional finance.
So this is one of the things we always talk about being intellectual. I was on LinkedIn the other day, and it was a really experienced advisor. And she wrote on LinkedIn, there's no such thing as a conflict-free advisor, right?
Mhm.
I give you advice, you listen to me. That's a sell, right?
Mhm.
Now, in the marketing space of our business, you can see the whole industry is trying to fight against that. But it's a relationship, your influence. We're selling abstracts, not houses. We're selling abstract things that sometimes don't exist, right? What's important about what we do is typically going to be the plan and the process. Um, there's a bunch of companies that are 200 years old, banks, insurance companies, probably the accounting firms.
Mhm.
What's going to be um, really important about engaging a financial uh, relationship is the process they're using to make sure that you're going to be successful, right? My whole business model now is, look, I read one time, most clients switch advisors when we get to retirement. We start really focusing in on retirement distribution planning, especially around tax planning, right? So we use a lot of the same software CPAs use a tax plan, all those things, and then coming and being intellectually honest about what we can do and what we can't do, right? Sometimes one of the coolest things to do is tell someone, hey, I can't do that. I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
An expat coming into the country, I met an advisor that was an expert at that. I'm not an expert at that. So that client should go and work with that guy, not me. If that makes sense. So there's too much in this business of heart, you're a podiatrist. There's too much of that in this business. You're a podiatrist and you're trying to do heart surgery. Um, that it's really one of the issues within finance, and a lot of that is around the marketing. Uh, and then the first question you asked, which was, well, we'll move on. I won't say that. Go ahead.
No, I think I definitely agree with that. I think a lot when I have spoken to other financial advisors, you kind of get the feeling that everybody knows everything, as you said before, and I think that might be a problem because I think some people might. I don't want to say a too big ego, but it's in a way I feel like some people might stretch themselves too far.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, if you're what we do is we developed a process, we named it called the Paraplus formula. We stick to it. We strictly stick to it. It's really a process for success. We think it's an intentional wealth blueprint, and we're not going to deviate from it, right? Period. And it's not showing up. I'm not Eugene Fama, I'm not David Booth. Some of the things we use, we name the term applied wealth management because we want to get this as systematic as possible, meaning it's scalable and repeatable. But those guys, some of the investment strategy we use, the guys won Nobel Prizes. I didn't win a Nobel Prize, right? Not even close, not even a Peace Prize. Uh, so it's really if we can rely on the experience of others, things that are tried and true, looking at economic theory to really inform what we're doing with clients, especially as it results to retirement. A lot of the retirement plans that we see, there's research, by the way, is going back like 25, 30 years right now. It's not really an excuse for these horrible outcomes that families are having, especially those with large assets,
Mhm.
where they're overpaying taxes and some of those things. A lot of it comes from usually you think when you start the business, everybody wants help in this comprehensive fashion. They really don't. Some people don't want to know the truth. They kind of want to put their head in the sand. And then um, it's okay to not have those relationships within your practice, right? And
Mhm.
that's one of the things I think most people miss out on. You want, we say three: productive, profitable, right? You want people to be productive and profitable, right? And then be able to stick to a plan, a strict plan
Mhm.
that's for sure going to change over the lifetime of the relationship,
Yeah.
right? So you need a path. So it doesn't matter how smart you are, if your life gets turned upside down, you need to have the skill and the experience to kind of make an about face and then really start to address what they're going to do with the lifetime of the relationship, right?
Yeah, no, and I think, I mean, coming from you, you have had so much experience before starting your own firm. How would you kind of compare that to the people who got right out of college and then began their own firm? How would you kind of see the difference in skills?
Uh, I don't even know where they would begin. Right? Passing the licensing in this business is like almost uh, nothing.
Mhm.
There's different philosophies. There's different right ways to do things. Um, Shooting uh, into the air blindly, I don't even know how it happens. Right? A lot of things that I was able to learn from people I were close to in the business, they can teach you in a book. The CFP didn't teach it. Uh, like not even close, right? Some of the things that we do and that we learn. So I think it's kind of mandatory uh, that you start around someone with a lot of experience because that can inform kind of one, what you want to specialize in, and then two, some of the processes and other things that are being used to help families become successful. Because again, we're trying to get away from the journey and get right to the process,
Yeah.
right? If someone's done it before and they're very successful, I'm a part of a coaching program. I pay close attention to what they say. The guy worked for 25 years, ended up selling his business for multi-million dollars.
Mhm.
Uh, had a conversation with him, got some really blunt feedback around some of the things I was doing. I don't take time to think about it. He's already done what I'm trying to do, so I'm going to borrow his experience. So I don't even know how you come right out of college and start that. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
I, yeah.
That's really good to hear because I think um, it kind of connects back to the other point of people kind of thinking they know everything and
Mhm.
kind of admitting it sometimes that you need the experience before jumping into actually starting your own firm. But kind of
There's a
connecting
junior
that.
advisor in the next room, and we were talking a couple of weeks back. He's right there. He's in there now.
Mhm.
And we were talking about something. Uh, he taught me three or four things in a conversation 2 weeks ago that I forgot. But
Mhm.
I feel like that I've integrated since that conversation that I used to do all the time. And
Yeah.
then I got experience and fancy and stopped doing them. And I thought, wow, that's a really great idea. I didn't tell him that. Well, I had literally just forgot this because trying to learn all these other
Yeah.
things,
Yeah,
and
no,
it
no.
really got back to the fundamentals, and then it's been valuable ever since then. In the meetings we've had for the last couple of weeks, so
Mhm.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I try not to learn it. I try not to pretend like I know it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you first began starting this firm, so really like at the day one, what was
Mhm.
kind of, I know when people are running a business, they usually identify a gap in the current landscape. So
Right.
what was kind of that gap or problem that you found in the current wealth management industry, and how did you kind of solve that or solve that?
Oh, it's easy for us. Distribution plans around retirement, they're awful. Most of the clients that have them with any level of assets don't really have a tax efficient distribution plan.
Mhm.
Some of the professional athletes we work with, we're bringing in a lot of assets from that space because the advisors that work with those guys definitely don't have any experience
Mhm.
in helping organize business assets, uh, and liquid assets, real estate, into a plan that's tax efficient, and then create a distribution strategy that's going to last a lifetime, right? That is the need that, and it's kind of represents the biggest financial opportunity, right? Because a lot of our clients are business owners. We're 5 years away from a liquidity event. We're setting up strategies to offset the eventual capital gains they're going to experience, and everything's really built around this tax efficient work optional lifestyle they're trying to create, right?
Mhm.
There's a big demand for that. Luckily, not a lot of advisors are very good at it, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
they
So you
wants to just talk about the stock market. So I'm very happy that's kind of where the industry is because it represents a huge opportunity for us. That's almost all we talk about on a daily basis
yeah,
is
yeah.
tax efficient distribution planning with clients with businesses, certain level of assets, real estate, and those things, right?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. But when I know that's kind of the beginning of your firm, how did you kind of market your firm and kind of differentiate yourself? Because I know, I mean, there's probably tens of thousands of wealth management firms across the United States and even
Mhm.
globally. So how did you kind of differentiate yourself when it came to advertising and kind of letting people know what your firm does?
one of the other cool things about this business is you just have to build relationships, which are really hard. Um, and I was always very, very honest about building relationships. Like if I didn't like someone, I didn't, even when I first started, and I was broke, I'll eating 99 cent chicken sandwiches every day. I never worked with anyone just because I've never done that. I never worked with anyone I didn't like. If I didn't like sitting with them, I would get out of that situation really quickly, which is a part of my personality. But one of the things is this business is like really tough. It's really hard to build relationships. And every time we look at research, you can see there's a couple guys that build billion-dollar firms on YouTube. I'm actually going to reach out to one of them because I've never done that. Everything I've ever done has been personal relationships.
Yeah.
Getting referrals from current clients. Of course, you start with our initial book of business, which I talk to Michael about, Michael Campbell all the time. He always tells me, don't tell them you lied to the firm that you started working at, but I did, right? They gave me a project 200. I was trying to get in the door. I had like 30 people out of that 30 people on that project 200 that were like real. What I wanted was an opportunity. I knew once I got in, I was going to do well. But from there, I started, networking in the right circles with the people you want to kind of work with. Um, One, acquiring kind of the skill so that people look at you and understand that you have the ability to do the work that you're telling them that you can actually do, right? And then once you do a good job with that, really helping to turn some of the clients into advocates, right? So all my business creation has come from that. Really, I'm horrible at marketing. I have a coach right now that tells me I'm horrible at marketing. One of the questions he asked me was like, "Hey, do any of your clients know you have a Master of Science?" So I was like, "No." I asked a couple, including a couple of our professional athletes, and they were like, "Yeah, no, we had no idea." And I was like, "Well, it's on my email signature." But a lot of it for me, it's been all referrals and then personal relationship building, which is the most effective way. But now with the kind of this revolution we were experiencing in the last 10 years, you've seen a lot of firms that are successful online, on YouTube, different places where they can successfully bring in, qualified prospects. Some for me, I've only been able to do it with referrals and then just personal promotion.
Yeah, no, I think a big thing in the wealth management firm is kind of the credibility standpoint, like you mentioned. And I think when it comes to initial marketing, when I was kind of looking into it, some of the firms that I've applied to, they don't really do marketing. They don't really advertise themselves because I think just let's say like other companies who put themselves on a billboard on a highway, right?
Yeah.
With wealth management, if you see that there's no credibility built, you don't know what they do. You don't know if they have success in the past. So I think
even more true than that. Think about this. I went to the Super Bowl with a client a couple years ago, and some of the larger firms were paying $150,000. They had 100 events that cost $150,000 for one event, one night. They did them like 3 nights in a row for clients with certain level assets to go to these things, right? If I try to compete with that, I'm going to lose, right? You think I'm going to try to market with some of these Wall Street firms? Like I'm going to hire this really important chef, pay him 100 grand and 50,000 for the venue and all this other stuff. You have to kind of get in where you fit in. There are things we can be more bespoke. We can be more, we can create more custom strategies. We can provide more services. Those services can be non-conflicted. We can maximize opportunities, but sometimes, I don't want to get in a marketing match with some of these larger firms around digital marketing and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think like digital marketing is definitely not cheap. So competing with kind of the JP Morgans of the world, it's definitely a hard market.
Not possible. But what is possible is the execution of some of the things we're able to do that they're not going to do until you get $10 million.
Yeah.
So like I said, we'll do it from 500,000 to 10 million. With a lot of these ultra wealthy families, a lot of the stuff that these smaller firms are doing, those larger firms will do for free. So you have to even know that, right? You start getting above certain levels, some of the things that you're paying for, that's why some families have family offices rather than pay an advice. It's cheaper for them just to hire 5 employees and give up a percentage of these assets that aren't creating value all the time, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. So personal promotion, hard work, pounding the concrete. One cool thing about it is most people won't do it. I will, um, and I'll do it as much as I need to do to get to where I need to go.
Mhm.
Period. Right. And
Yeah.
that's one cool thing about this business is, I'm not extraordinary. I'm not Jeff Bezos. I'm not, that guy, but I can do things other people are unwilling to do.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to focus on.
It's a super important thing, just like putting your head down and concentrating. But I kind
Right.
of want to look into while you were growing your firm to get to where you are today, what was
Mhm.
kind of the biggest either operational hurdle that you had to deal with, or even a compliance hurdle with maybe the
Okay.
SEC or other government entities that really made it hard to keep going?
Compliance is easy. Hire a law firm, follow the rules, say what needs to be said, be very clear and transparent. We pay someone to do it. The hardest thing about any business is surrounding yourself with the right people, right? That are like-minded with the same focus, that want to do a certain level of work, right? I've had many opportunities to join, merge with other firms, talk to them. We don't match, right?
Yeah.
And the whole play is kind of around we can make more money. What we're trying to do here is just kind of beyond, the compensation. So, strict rules around planning, right? If coming here, it has to be planning first. You have to actually know what you're talking about. You actually have to create the financial plan. You actually have to execute the financial plan. Um, this is not a discount shop. You know,
Yeah.
we charge what we feel we're worth. You can't be in here begging for someone to come in, breaking your process because they feel like they want to do something different.
Mhm.
Um, and I've had partners at the firm where they had to go. They come in, the focus was off, it wasn't where I wanted it to be. It was they needed to move on and kind of work in an environment that was more like what they wanted to do,
Yeah.
which was going to be unfocused, unscrambled, non-professional, right? That's not what we're trying to bring to the marketplace, right? So the toughest part about any business is always going to be who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
First your staff, then the entrepreneurial people, right?
I absolutely agree. It's definitely a difficult time to find people that are willing to agree with your standpoint and your mission statement, and not kind of seeing people who are kind of just going to leech on and hope for the best. But
Right.
we kind of hear I don't know if you have any of these, but a really like a challenging client story where a client was really not necessarily annoying, but just difficult to work with, and how you kind of either resolved it or ended up not going through with the client.
All my closest friends are annoying. Some of them are very successful, and we had to have a come to Jesus moment about like 3 or 4 months ago. I told kind of one of my really good friends, like if you weren't like one of my best friends, I was the best man at a wedding. Told him if that wasn't you, I would fire you, right? Um, I really told them that, but they were at the point too where they were kind of feeling it.
Mhm.
So that hurdle, working with close friends is always going to be tough, especially for me. I got a lot of friends that have been pretty successful. Uh, they all majored in biology or chemistry. Most of them went to med school and did different things. So now we're in mid 40s. They're starting to kind of get to the point of their life where they're most successful. And they're getting really serious, but early on, those were hurdles. Um, I had a client one time come in, and uh, we do everything from all the way from their life insurance through their high level estate planning and asset protection. This particular client got declined for life insurance and disability policy, and then we invested the money. But then I went to like 10 different insurance companies, um, and they all said no. We got to like the 11th one. They said yes on the life and the disability. And then
Mhm.
I went and sat down with him to do it. And he said, no, that's okay. I don't want that insurance thing.
After all that work.
After all that work. So I started packing up all my stuff. Said, okay, fine, go work for somebody else. Just that simple. Like, and then move your account, please. Uh, and the idea is like, look, we either do our best work or we're doing no work. We're
Mhm.
not creating plans that are we're going to create self-fulfilling plans, right? If
Mhm.
you die, we're going to have life insurance is going to create the liquidity to replace your income that you would receive for your family. And actually, when I started doing that, that was a long time ago. The guy's still a client. He said, "Oh, just sit down, fine." And then he signed the paperwork and then everything. But that client ended up getting cancer, so he claimed on his disability policy that he didn't want 3 times. Um, Funny enough, a life insurance company changed their payment code, uh, and uh, he missed a payment because of that reason. And
Yeah.
then they did everything else, and then he's uninsurable now. They tried to cancel a policy that we've been paying for 12 years.
That's horrible.
Uh, so I had to, well, they did cancel the policy.
Hmm.
And then I contacted the Department of Insurance, and we started going through that process. So now they agreed to put it back in force, right? Um, I've had a couple stories like that, a couple really terrible stories where we've had people come in, sold their business, spent the money, and paid the taxes, blew the money, still owe the taxes.
Hmm.
We've seen that happen. We had to let those individuals. You just cannot. One of the big things is just my personality in general. I'm a fighter. Confrontation is not foreign to me. I'm not trying to do all things to all people. I told a guy to buy a disability policy one time. The CPA told him he shouldn't have a disability policy. Then he got cancer. Um, just a bunch of, because now it's going into the 16th year, a bunch of stories like that end up being disasters.
Yeah.
Right. But then there's those stories where people listened and got cancer. We have a physician right now getting a business overhead policy, disability policy, retire guard. So there's money being put into retirement plan. What we did was create a self-completing financial plan with the things that matters to our clients that we can control. Right. So if it matters and we're controlling the strategy, that's what we're going to do. And then you get sick, you get injured, you die, or you work. You're going to have enough money. It's going to be tax efficient. And we're going to complete the plan. And that's the only way we're going to engage with clients, right? Meaning, if you come in the door with $1 million and you don't have to go through the full process, most of the time there needs to be some extenuating circumstances why we let you stay, right? You don't want to get in a situation where you're just doing bad work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think doing the best work, and as you said before, staying aligned with that professional standpoint is really, really important. But I want to kind of see your insights and kind of understand where you see the financial industry evolving. So whether that be AI, new technology, if really this tech bubble is going to keep growing, or if you think it's gonna pop, and
so all the large companies giving up their robo advisors. People with money want advice from someone they trust. Just because you engage with them initially and they don't listen doesn't mean they're not going to do anything. It may mean you're the wrong person for that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think all the robo advisor thing is great. A lot of kids, I say kids, well, a lot of your age, right? It's very powerful to begin. But we look at the research, right? Tax planning around kind of your assets and the structure of your balance sheet is kind of where clients are going to find, the most value, walking through where to deploy the capital, whether real estate, you can provide value there, or franchise or a business, how to move money from your your business balance sheet to your personal balance sheet in a tax efficient fashion is going to be important. Those are things that, in a few years, a robot's still going to be able to do. But, from what's happened, I think in our industry is all the robo things kind of overhyped, and clients with a certain level of assets and certain balance sheet structures, they don't like them anyway, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's like you don't know what you don't know. So, asset management, we have a 7-pillar, process, and that's only one of the 7 pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And research is saying it's the least valuable pillar.
Really?
Right. I mean, it's really bad to say that, but if you look at like these Vanguard studies and different things, the Russell study looked around advisor value, advisor alpha, they call it. If you're just managing money for our clients, it's hard for them to get full value, right?
Mhm.
In fact, I think Vanguard quantified active management at 85 basis points and passive at 82, where in both cases you're under the typical 1% charge um, that most advisors have. So clients are losing, 15 to 20 basis points by you just managing their money. Um, any charge that doesn't provide value uh, is a charge that shouldn't be paid, right? That's
Yeah,
kind of our, that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely.
The AI, right? It's going to be what's happened really. To answer your question even further, to what's happened really is it's made it easier for us to trade for clients. It's made it cheaper for us to trade for clients, and it's made us faster to trade for clients. Many platforms have fractional shares now, so it's made the access, it's democratized the access, meaning you could run direct indexing strategies. When I first started were $1 million, right? Goldman was doing it, it was over $1 million. You can do those things now down to like 12 grand
Yeah,
with the tech. You could run, a client essentially can get the same portfolio with a
with
lot smaller amount of money. So the tech has really made it more beneficial for us to provide value for clients. That's where the biggest change has been, but that's not communicated in marketing, right?
yeah, yeah.
Actually, we do a terrible job. I'm not even sure I do a great job, but that's really what's happening. All right.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to move on to kind of closing remarks here, and I want to ask you a lesson question. So if you can kind of go back in time to your younger self, let's say early college, what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
Ooh.
Hitting you with a deep one here.
No, because of this, well, this actually happened, and I had to address it when I was younger because I had a 360 change in my lifestyle. So I just figured I'd be rich and famous playing sports or football, right? Which, now that I work with some of these guys, I wasn't going to be good enough anyway. um, uh, but really just to focus, solitary focus. That's one thing. Sit
Mhm.
down, think about what you want to do, write a plan, and execute.
Yeah.
Right. Too early in my career, because I was talented at this, there was a lot of winging it in the background,
Mhm.
but it didn't look like I was winging it in front of clients. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
get rid of the winging it because you start getting successful. That's for sure.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. That's great advice. I really, really appreciate it. Now, the last segment here, we're going to do lightning round. All right. It's going to be super quick questions. And the
Yeah.
first one is a little information that I got from Michael. I wanted to ask you about your brother, Coach Carter from the movie, Coach,
Oh, my uncle. Yeah, my Coach Carter's my uncle. Yeah.
and how did that also help shape your life?
Look, when I was a kid in the summertime, if we were sitting there watching TV or MTV, he would walk by and say, uh, yeah, it's his money. How are you going to get yours? Right. Uh, and again, it's focus. Since I was a teenager, his focus was always around how are you going to get to where you want to go? Right. And then he would always tell me, do not pretend like you don't want to go where you want to go. I'm in don't pretend you don't want to go where you want to go. Don't pretend you don't want to date the girl you want to date. Don't pretend you don't want to make the money and drive what you want to drive. Just do the work to get it, right? And he was neurotic about that. And I mean, we were kids, and that was the feedback we're getting starting at 12 years old,
Yeah.
right? So
Strong.
strong, focus, avoid kidding yourself, all the BS. Really take account of yourself, know who you are, look in the mirror and see what you're seeing.
Mhm.
The hardest thing for most people to do is look in the mirror and see what's really there. Right? And it was easy for me because I was getting that feedback from him, and he
Yeah.
was just right about it. Yeah, for sure.
That's great. That's great. Now, what is a book or podcast that you're kind of hooked to right now?
Geez, I'm like a Podcasts. Well, I'll just tell you, I like a lot of financial theory. So anything coming usually from applied capital finance. I do anything DFA publishes. I'm a Cliff Asness fanboy on the alternative space and some of the trend following things they do. We use those inside our portfolio. All the guys producing just white papers around quantitative stuff is kind of what I pay attention and listen to. And traditional business leaders. I don't necessarily try to mimic some of these like Fortune 5 CEO, 100 CEOs. It's not my space. I don't have the same personality. I want to be more like the Costco guy than some of these other individuals. So I ignore the stuff I don't want to be like, and then try to get to the back to the dorky side where I'm comfortable. So a lot of all the quant stuff, and then I watch a lot of videos from. There's an advisor that built $1 billion shop in 5 years, right?
Wow.
And I watch his stuff.
That's amazing. Yeah, no. What's his name? I'd love to look into that as well.
Oh, geez. What's James Pavone? I forget his last name. It's James. He's on my yeah, James Pavone. I found out about him at a conference.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
$1 billion in region is incredible.
I admire within the business. We do a lot of networking with other private RAs. One of the cool things is not like working at a bank versus bank at all, right? So, I talked to a guy with $500 million in AUM the other day, and he was just like giving me everything he was doing. Do this, avoid that. So, so on the private side, that guy gave me tidbits of invaluable information.
Yeah. Those connections build lifelong help for everything, pretty much. It's amazing. Jermaine, I really want to thank you so much for joining us today, taking the time out of your day to speak with me. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Coffee Chats podcast, and have a great rest of your day.
Have a good one. Take it easy.